The Eagles and the Cowboys are both reeling, but one of them is about to win a football game. Welcome into the Sporting News Studios for Hot Reads, your weekly look at the NFL with Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman. I'm Tom Vandervoort, and Troy, I know you're calling the Eagles-Cowboys game this week. Eagles have lost, I think, 4 in a row. Cowboys have lost 4 or 5, but unless there's some weird tie, one of these teams is going to get a win this weekend, and then after that, before a rematch, 2 pretty winnable games for each of them. So who do you think wins this game and why?
Well, that's a good question as far as who's going to win. You're right. I mean, one of these teams, one of them has to win, and we'll see how it unfolds. But, of course, both these teams have had their share of problems, and I think they're both still pretty talented teams, and they're capable of getting on a hot streak. I don't know that they're going to, but the things that have beaten them this year have really been the same for both teams, and the fact that they turn the ball over, they're not scoring touchdowns when they get down in the red zone. They've had some issues along their offensive line. They're not tackling what, I mean, it's endless. It has not been very good football for the most part for either of these teams, and I know that they're both hoping to be able to get it going this week. It seems like we've been saying that certainly about the Eagles for the last several weeks after they let Juan Castillo go. The defense has actually played worse in the last 2 games, under Todd Bowles, and I don't know that they're going to be able to pull it together, and I don't even know if Dallas is going to do it for that matter.
Yeah, one of them is going to have to win, like we said, and a couple things have come up this week. You mentioned the Eagles' problems, and Jerry Jones was talking about his role as both owner and general manager, and I know, obviously he was in that role when you came aboard. And what's your thoughts on what Jerry had to say about playing that dual role and some of the pluses and the minuses of doing that?
Well, it's unique. I don't know of any other situation to where the owner is also serving as a general manager. It started that way when Jerry took over in 1989. Jimmy Johnson was the head coach. Jimmy, to my knowledge, had most to do with the players that were brought in and the players that were drafted. And, over the years, I think that the pluses are that you'd say, well, you don't have a general manager who's trying to convince the owner to spend X amount of dollars to get a particular player in. I mean, Jerry Jones wants to win as bad as anybody in the league, and he has the resources to spend, and he has. I think that's a positive. I don't know of very many coaches that have come through Dallas that can say that they didn't get what they wanted. So that's a very positive thing. I think the negatives are that you don't have someone who's just completely focused on that job of being general manager. It's a full-time job. I mean, not that there aren't other people, doing some of those responsibilities within the organization. But most of these general managers, they travel around the country. They're gone a lot. They're evaluating players. They're scouting. They're looking at film. They're talking to people. Jerry certainly does some of that, but he also shoots commercials for some of the products that he's endorsing, and he's a marketing genius when it comes to keeping the Cowboys relevant. There's a lot of things that occupy his time in the branding and the selling of the Dallas Cowboys, and it's a big responsibility to then double that with the responsibilities and the commitments that are required to be a general manager.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned scoring touchdowns instead of scoring field goals, and as we watch these games week after week, it becomes obvious how important it is to be efficient in the red zone and to get 7 points and not 3. In your mind, these days in professional football, where teams are able to move the ball fairly well across the board, what's the difference between getting a touchdown and a field goal? What makes a red zone offense more efficient?
It's a good question. I don't know that I've got a real good answer for it, to be honest with you. I think that, the thing that when I was playing and we were generally a pretty good red zone team. We scored points when we got down there. We came away with touchdowns, and I think one of the keys and one of the things that most people would say is that the teams that are good in red zone scoring are teams that run the football effectively, because as we know, as the field gets shorter, the windows within the passing game become smaller. But when you look at the top 3 teams, for instance, in today's game, as far as coming away with touchdowns when they get in the red zone, those teams are New Orleans, Denver, and Green Bay. And none of those 3 teams run the ball particularly well, but yet they do all have, veteran quarterbacks that are experienced and make good decisions, and they throw the ball very effectively. And so I think that, I'd probably say that when you look around the league, for the most part, the teams that are doing well when they get down there do have those veteran signal callers. Now, number 4 in red zone scoring, as we talk today, is the St. Louis Rams. Now, the St. Louis Rams aren't scoring a lot of points, but when they do get into the red zone, they typically come away with touchdowns. And of course, Sam Bradford is not as experienced in the quarterback of those 3 that I just mentioned. But there's the biggest key, I think, is execution. You can't beat yourself with penalties. Certainly can't turn the ball over. The teams that are doing well when they get into that area of the field are typically pretty efficient.